All right, what's up, everybody? It's Mitch Griffiths with Austin Carter Samuels, and our guest here today on episode 34 is Chris Streveler, a guy that I've been a fan for a long time. Got a lot of love and respect for this guy, and I'm notoriously horrible at intros, so we're just gonna fucking get into this because I hate doing intros. So, Chris, first of all, I appreciate you coming on. I know you're busy in season and doing some rehab right now, so thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, like I said, man, I'm excited to chat with you guys and just love talking ball with people. So let's get into it.
Yeah. So I kind of will let you spit. I want to hear about your journey, and we'll interrupt you along the way and just ask questions, and we'll get into the weeds.
Well, like always,
Yeah.
I gotta cut Mitch off real quick, all right, and hit the bullet points, dude. Because when Mitch says he sucks at intros, he really doesn't suck that bad at intros, all right. He just doesn't want to gas somebody up and like stumbles at the beginning. So we're gonna avoid all that bullshit. And I know Chris is a great guy, so like he may not talk about himself all the way. So I'm gonna paint the full picture real quick, all right.
Thank you.
Dude's 29 years old. He's from Illinois, all right. Has succeeded at every level of ball that he's been at, but the road has not been easy, just like any of us. Like, just you always have a plan and you always think it's going a direction, and it ends up inevitably landing somewhere else, including what he's dealing with currently and what he's been facing the last month and a half. So, as you look at his high school career, went to Marion Central Catholic, then went to college at Minnesota, and had some other position stuff that was offered to him coming out of high school as well. And so chose to go to Minnesota and then didn't play much there, at least to my knowledge, and then took off to South Dakota and was the man. And after being the man at South Dakota, then got his opportunity to go up to the CFL and kind of showed what he could do in that environment, and then went to the NFL. And so this guy's been a journeyman, dude. He's been to the Arizona Cardinals. He's been to the Baltimore Ravens, the Dolphins, the Jets. Now he finds himself back full circle to the CFL with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So just having him on, we're super excited just because we know there's a lot of depth of experience there, a lot of different perspectives that you got. So Chris, I mean, just as you get started talking about you, dude, to me, it's always fun to just start with like, when you fell in love with football and why you fell in love with football, dude. Like, take us back to the little kid and take us into where you started at.
Yeah. Well, hey, both you guys, great intro. Appreciate you guys for that. Dude, Austin did his research over there, man. You're dialed in. I appreciate it.
Hey,
Um,
gotta be.
you have to be. Yeah. Look, going back to when I fell in love with football, I was always like football and baseball as a kid growing up, and I kind of got to the point where I was like, okay, I was looking at baseball and I'm like, dude, I just don't like standing in the outfield all game or like striking out and having to like sit on the bench and wait to go bat. Like I'm a guy that as a kid I was always like, all right, if I make a mistake, I'm just gonna go full speed and hit someone. Like I've always loved contact with football, and like even now to this day, like a big part of my game is running, being physical. Like I'm not afraid to run somebody over, and that's kind of always been my edge as a quarterback a little bit is like, you know, being a little grittier and like not really sliding and
Hell yeah.
stuff. So it's still kind of carried over to this day where like as a kid I was always playing linebacker and I always wanted to hit someone, and I think I was like probably 13 when I made the decision of like, okay, this is gonna be my last year playing baseball. I'm gonna go all in on football just because I love it and I think I could maybe have a future doing it. I don't know. But I didn't even start playing quarterback until my sophomore year of high school. I was always like a running back and a linebacker. And then I just kind of loved the position and started to grow into it from there.
Dude, as you stepped into it, like that's a different mentality. So Mitch and I can talk shit all we want about being shorter quarterbacks and being tough. I'll lower my fucking pads on you, that's for sure. But I ain't wanting to stuff you in the hole as a linebacker, dog. Like I want no part of that shit.
Hell no.
So like as you think like sophomore year of high school, like did you have any influences? So you step into quarterback. Did you have any influences or guys that were playing that you looked up to in terms of play style or like kind of just in that regard, like help us understand who you were as a quarterback, but also give us an idea of like, yeah, did you have anybody on your wall that you wanted to be like?
Yeah, like growing up, so since I was playing running back, like I loved Reggie Bush. Like when Reggie was going stupid at USC, I'm like in fifth grade, like doing flips into the end zone because I want to be like Reggie. So like that was
Hell
my
yeah.
God. And then like once I started playing quarterback, I was like I loved Tebow when he was at Florida because like he's running dudes over and like talking to him, and I was like, this guy's a beast. Like he's got the I just remember the picture of him playing at Florida State. He's got like the red paint all over his body. I'm like,
Yes.
that's my mentality. And then as I got older and I'm like actually like understanding quarterbacks, I'm like, okay, Tom Brady. This is the guy. Like this is the clutch. Like he's just got that it factor. And so those were kind of the guys I looked up to. But going back to starting to play quarterback sophomore year, like just a quick little story. My freshman year of high school, I wasn't able to play football because I had this like pretty serious elbow condition. So my throwing arm, basically like all my bone was decaying and like all my cartilage was like flaking off. And it was this thing called osteochondritis, and it's like way more common in the knee. At the time, it was like super rare in the elbow, and they had like never really seen it. And so I was actually told by two doctors, like my freshman year of high school, that I'll probably never throw again, never be able to really like lift weights or do anything. And I ended up finding this doctor in Chicago who did basically this like experimental surgery on me. And so I couldn't play football my freshman year, and like I didn't bench at all in high school because like I was like being really safe with my elbow, but like that was kind of like my first go with like adversity at a young age. Is like, okay, like I'm sure you guys can both imagine if you're 14 years old and a doctor tells you like you're never going to play football again, you're never going to play sports, like you can probably imagine how devastating that is to a kid who like their dreams to go to the NFL, right? So like that was kind of my first time where like I started to like develop a mentality of like overcoming stuff and like people telling me maybe you can't do it or this and that. And so, looking back, that was kind of the starting point of where my mentality started to change as an athlete. And then, getting to play quarterback as a sophomore and like they had me playing defense and then, going to varsity. But it was kind of my first like test of adversity in my life with football.
Dude, and that shapes who you are, like from there on out. Like as you're talking about kind of finding that inner resiliency, like a lot of the people that listen to us talk every week is a lot of these young cats that are in those shoes. Like, can you go back? Because some of those memories like stick out big time. Can you go back to like going through the thick of that process and what that felt like and looked like, and then now you look back with what you're going through right now and you're like, oh, this is nothing, like I got this. But at the time, like what that was like for you to kind of get on the other side of that at that age?
I mean, as you guys both know, like if you play football long enough, adversity is going to happen every year, like every game, like it's just a matter of when it's going to come. And so, like for me, I just remember moments through that, right? Cuz like you're so young, you don't really know what's going on, but like I just remember after that doctor's conversation where the first doctor was like, "Yeah, like we're going to put screws in your elbow, like you're never going to throw." I just remember like bawling in the car cuz I'm like, I'm never gonna go play college. Like, it's over for me. Like, I'm just devastated. And then I remember like kind of being around the freshman team and like some of my friends like chirping me like, "Oh, you're soft," like this and that. And I just remember like that's fueling a fire in me. Like, "Oh, you're gonna see next year when we put the pads on. Like, I'm gonna fuck you up, dude. Like, you better stop talking." Like, so that kind of like fueled the fire. And then I just like I loved lifting weights as a kid. Like, I really loved being in the weight room. But they had like it was an experimental surgery, so he's like, "Look, dude, we gotta be really cautious with this. Like, you can't bench, no pressing exercises, anything that's like gonna put stress on the elbow. Don't do it." So my entire high school career, I didn't do push-ups, I didn't bench press, I didn't do any pressing. Like, I still found ways to get strong, and I was a
Yeah.
strong kid in high school. I still kind of take pride in that, but like I had to be very diligent with like listening to what the doctors told me, but also at the same time kind of like using that time of sitting out as like motivation for when I got back. Like I remember how it feels to not play, so I'm gonna really make it count when I can play and really um take advantage of the opportunities I do get.
Yeah. So, I mean, how did you? I mean, that's a crazy scenario that you're in. So you can't even. You're told you might not be able to throw again as a freshman, and then as a sophomore, you're thrown into the quarterback position. How did you? How did you get into that? Like, who put you at quarterback? Did you try to do that, or were you just like, hey, you're gonna play quarterback?
I mean, like they started looking at me like earlier when I was in like seventh and eighth grade, but I was really just like an athlete, and then it was like,
Yeah.
okay, sophomore year, like you're kind of going. But like I said, I was always like a really good linebacker when I was a young kid, and so I had a really good coach, and like I ended up switching programs when I was like, in eighth grade to go to like the feeder program for my high school. So I knew that they had a good offensive coordinator because my high school, when I got there, they were like kind of known as like the high school in the area for like developing Division 1 guys. So the guy before me, his name was John Budmeyer. Uh, he played, or sorry, two guys before me. John Budmeyer, he played at Wisconsin, and he was like the dude that like would come back and throw with us, and I'm like, holy shit, dude, this guy can spin it. Like I want to be like
Yeah.
this guy,
Yeah.
like him.
Yeah.
So that was the guy, two guys before me, and then the guy before me, his name was Ben Kroll. He ended up playing at Eastern Illinois. So they had two Division I guys before me, and then I went to Minnesota. And then the guy after me, Billy Ball, he ended up going to Miami of Ohio. So it was kind of like the school in the area that was like, hey, if you want to be a quarterback, if you want to go Division I, this is the place to go. And so I kind of like saw my future like, I know you guys are gassing up my shortness. I'm really probably like 6'1.5", but it's all good.
All right, they don't count, dude. You don't count.
Then, dude, you're a
Yeah,
tall
get the
guy.
fuck off the pod. Come on.
And I'm like, all right, dude. I'm 6'1.5", 6'2". I got long legs. Like I'm a white dude. Like, where's my future? Is it running back? Probably quarterback. So like, let me try this.
Fair.
Like that's kind of how things happen for me. And yeah, I mean, that was just the beginning of adversity. Like I said, all through along the way, like I've gone through quite a bit of adversities and hard things in my career that have shaped who I am today, and I'm thankful for it all because I wouldn't be the person I am today if it wasn't for all those things.
Of course, and this is kind of a backtrack, and I don't think a lot of kids understand that because I'm the same way. And if you told me at 16 what I was gonna go through in college, I would be crushed, devastated. I wouldn't. I would lose my mind. But I can sit here today, being so thankful for everything that I've gone through. So if you could tell a 14, 15, 16-year-old, that if you go back and tell yourself at 14, 15, 16 that the adversity you're going to face, what would be a piece of advice you give yourself, but also I guess to other kids that are young that haven't really hit that adversity yet, but are going to hit it?
Like, there's a couple things that I've really like based my life off of playing football as a person and as an athlete, and it's really simple, but it's a lot harder to do when you're put through hard things. It's really just work hard and be good to people. And that's what my dad always told me. He always told me that hard work pays off. And so, like, I've always blindly trusted that. Like, if I'm working as hard as I can, it's going to pay off. And I always tell kids, when I talk to them, I'm like, look, when I say hard work pays off, it doesn't mean that everything you ever wish for is going to come true. But I promise you, there's going to be a day when you're going to look back and you're going to be happy that you emptied the gas tank and did everything you could. Because if you go as hard as you can every single day and you can look in the mirror and be happy with that, guess what? The way things turn out, you're never going to have any regrets. That's what I tell kids. Like, it doesn't matter where you go to college, what you do. Just go as hard as you can every day and things are going to work out the way they're supposed to. And that's really how I've lived my life.
Well, you start with that mantra of like work hard, and like in college, I met one of my receivers was really really good in college, and like he was Jerry Rice's nephew, and one of his quotes was like, "Austin, hard work isn't hard work; it's just a standard." And like when your dad puts that into you at a young age, and then you experience adversity where you get taken off the field for a little while, and now I'm sure like. That thing inside you is just like waiting, dude, just bull, like, hey, let me loose, dude, let me loose. It's like you kind of get hardened in that process. And I ask guys all the time, especially that have gone through a lot of adversity, like what their superhero trait is. And like, I feel like we got a good feel for where yours is at. But like, if you were to describe, your superhero trait and then like how that kind of turned on and what that looked like through your high school career, like, I'd love to hear that.
Yeah, that's a great question, man. Like, I would say my superhero trait would just be like resiliency and toughness. Like
Yeah.
I've always been a guy where it's like I'm just gonna keep going. I'm never gonna stop. And like through my career, I mean, dude, we're just tip of the iceberg of my career of like injuries I've been through and like things I've had to overcome and just I just always try to be tough and just try to keep going. Like, because again, you never know where it's gonna go. And the other thing I tell kids too is like the time when it's the hardest to keep going. The time when you want to stop the most is when you have to go the hardest because that's when a breakthrough's coming your way and you just don't know it. But if you take your foot off the gas and that opportunity comes and you took your foot off the gas, guess what? You're not going to be ready. So those times when you don't want to do it, that's when you got to go the hardest. And like that's how I've just lived my life. Like I don't view myself as some like genetic freak or like my dad is just like he's not an athlete. Like I don't have athletes in my family. Like I just worked my ass off and just did everything I could to get to where I am and maximize my ability. There's a lot more people more talented. I just didn't give up.
That's exactly right. So with that mentality, what the high school career look like for you through your eyes? So how'd things go? How'd things shake out?
Yeah, it was fun, man. Like I had started to do good sophomore year, and like again, I was still an athlete, so like they'll put me back there and play safety. And like I remember we were playing this team Montini, and they were really good, and they had this receiver Jordan Westerkamp, and he played at Nebraska. He was a dog. And they're like, all right, we got this athlete that's on the sophomore team. Like, you're going to come up and cover Jordan Westerkamp for the playoff game. So I'm out at corner, like, dude, I'm like 160, just gangly, just trying to cover Jordan Westerkamp, like, doing the best I can. Like, he's saucing me up. But so that was kind of like
what was the stat line?
I don't even know. They were giving me a lot of help over the brother. I think I was kind of just like, press and play the flat. You just try to get hands on. We don't take your help, bro. So, that was sophomore year. And then, going into junior year, like I was still very raw. Like I was very raw as a quarterback. And it was more like, okay, first read. If not there, I'm taking off. So like, I rushed for quite a few yards. I had a good year throwing the ball. And, we won the conference. We're undefeated. Ended up losing in the quarterfinals. And then like I didn't really have any offers going into my senior year. Like, I traveled to South Dakota State and got like a late offer there in like the spring. And then going into the summer, me and my dad were like, okay, let's plan out a bunch of one-day camps because this is the only way you're going to get an offer. Like, you got to go get in front of people. So, I mean, we probably went to 10 one-day camps. And the one-day camp where they were like really liking me was Minnesota. And they saw my athleticism. They saw I was, in good shape. I could do some stuff. So I played quarterback and receiver at the camp and was just doing everything I could. Like I was catching some balls, I was throwing passes, and I could tell they liked me. And so, I'll never forget, I think it was maybe like June or July, going into my senior year, and I was on a bus with my high school team. We're going to Notre Dame to play at their 7-on-7 tournament. And the coach from Minnesota texted me. He's like, hey, give me a call later. I got some big news. So I'm like gassing it up to all my teammates. I'm like, guys, like this might happen. They're all like so juiced for me. So, I call them when I get to the hotel room, and they're like, yeah, we're going to offer you. And I just remember, like, I broke down. All my teammates are, like, crying because they know how hard I'm working and everything. And
That's awesome.
I basically just, like, committed on the spot. And so I committed to Minnesota, like, really shortly before my senior year started. And then after that, senior year, had a good year. I think I was, all-state. And, we went to the quarterfinals, won the conference again. And, it's just a fun time, man. And, like, high school football, you guys know, there's just nothing like it. You're with your best friends, those Friday night lights, like you're with boys. And it's funny because when you're in high school, you always hear the old dudes come back and be like, enjoy this time. Like, you never get it back. It's the best time. And you're just like, whatever, man. You're old. Like, you're washed
you're
up.
just old and washed. Like, shut up, dude. Like, yeah.
And then next thing you know, you're the old guy coming back being like, enjoy this time with your boys. It's just like, it really is the best time. And so I really look back on those memories fondly. And, last thing is, it's kind of ironic. My best friend in high school, one of my teammates, he's now the head coach at my high school. So it's always fun to go back and like see him coaching the kids. And like I go in their morning throwing sessions and talk to them. So kind of just full circle. But man, I have nothing but great memories of my high school career. And I had some great coaches, man. Really good coaches who instilled some more values in me as a person and a player, and, just really supplemented those beliefs of like, hey, hard work pays off. We're going to be a gritty team. And you teach me the basics of playing football and being quarterback.
No doubt. And so we've painted a pretty clear picture. You've painted a hell of a picture for us. And like, I think everybody that's listening is like thinking about fucking Tim Tebow right now in high school football, doing your thing. And like, that was a hell of a story with Minnesota there too. And it's like, Chris, you now know, and like, we'll get into it later on too, but like how multifaceted the quarterback position is. And like, for somebody that prides himself on the things that you pride yourself on, like, I like to think of myself very similarly. Like, when did the football IQ side of things, when did the actually studying ball part of this even come into the fact? Like, did you go all the way to college before you even really cared about that stuff? Or did you dive in and invest in that? Because I think a lot of guys don't understand, like, there's a lot of high school situations where you don't even have to know that stuff to be successful. And then you get to college and you're like, what the hell is this? Like, when did that football IQ, like studying the game side of things start to kick in for you?
That's another good question. And it really started for me senior year, I'm sorry, because, we kind of watched tape as a team, junior year, and it was like, I'm starting to grasp, right? Like I'm kind of starting to understand coverages. Well, and then senior year, I called a lot of my own plays. So my offensive coordinator, we had a really good relationship, and he started to like let me call my own plays. So at the beginning of the week, I'd have to come and like tell him what plays I liked for that week, like, oh, hey, I like 83 this week. It was all spread, so everything's just numbered. So, 83, I like 91, I like this and that. And he'd be like, okay, yeah, I like that too. So we kind of opened my mind to like having that relationship with a coach where you can actually like have some back and forth. And, as we get into my college career, my coach at South Dakota, like I really took another step with him having that relationship. But like in high school, that's when it started. I was calling my own plays. And shoot, the kids now, they don't even know, but you guys might remember. Well, maybe not you, Mitch. You're kind of young, but Austin, you might. Like, they'll
Yeah,
hand me a DVD. They'll be like, hey, we're playing
no doubt.
Montini. This Here goes your DVD. And you have to go home and put it in the DVD player to watch the tape. So,
Bro, I
like,
was I was VHS, dude. So you're even more new school than I am. I was
you're
VHS at that time.
VHS? Holy shit,
VHS,
you're a
dude.
dinosaur.
Me and my dad sitting in the garage together, popping in the fucking VHS, dude, and getting
Yep.
after it.
All right, y'all
Hey, that's
fucking
pretty.
old, dude. Jeez.
Chill.
Good God, dude. I was straight Huddle in like middle school. I was watching Huddle.
Yep, yeah.
Oh
I
my
had to take my
gosh.
highlights to this random video guy and be like, "Yo, can you splice these clips together and like make an actual tape?" I have a high school tape, like a CD.
Dude.
Like, hey, coach, I'm gonna mail this to you. Take a look.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh. That,
Uh,
that
And so then you make your way to Minnesota, bro. And like I know that you just started talking about South Dakota, and like I'm sure you're gonna have a lot to say about South Dakota just with what you were able to accomplish, and even the change of ball from D1 to what everybody doesn't understand about how high level like the ball that you played at South Dakota was. But like how do you summarize or think of your time at Minnesota? What's that like to you? What was that time for you?
Minnesota was like I built a lot of great relationships, and like one thing about me is like I'm all about relationships. I'm all about people. So like that is always going to be something important to me. And so I look back on that time as like, man, I met some great people. I made some great friends, and my time football wise was a bit frustrating. And not because like I wasn't playing. I think it was just more about like my mindset. And like when I went to Minnesota, I feel like I put a lot of pressure on myself to like be really good. And like I really wanted to go to the league, and like it was almost like paralysis by analysis where I'm just like I'm thinking so much like I didn't know how to turn it off. Everything I do, every day, every hour I'm thinking about football. And like it made me stress about it a lot. And so like I felt like I couldn't play the way I wanted to. And I started one game there and it was like we just ran the shit out of the ball. Like I ended up rushing for like 170 yards and like I think I completed like one pass. It was just like I was just an athlete. And so I kind of got put in this box of like this guy's just an athlete, and they didn't necessarily trust me at quarterback. And to back them up, like I didn't really play great at quarterback when I got opportunities in practice and stuff. So I wish I would have played more. I think I could have grown into a better quarterback. But going into my third year there, it was like pretty clear that like I wasn't even going to be the backup anymore. So I was like, you know what? Let me just try to get on the field. Like, so I started playing fullback. There was a day in practice in camp. I played quarterback, like wildcat quarterback,
It's
fullback, running back, receiver, like just trying to get on the field. I'm running down on kickoff. And
hell
it kind
yeah.
of got yeah, bro. Like so just doing whatever I could and like I love the team more than anything. So I'm like whatever the team needs, just put me out there. And so I kind of developed that mindset of like, all right, well, I'm not just a quarterback. I can go do other things and just be a part of the team. And so, I grew a lot. I learned a lot about myself and again, how to continue to work hard and persevere. I remember there was times when, my cousin Parker, shout out to him, man, still my best friend to this day. Like he was an equipment manager and I would bring him to the facility at like 8 p.m. and when I was playing receiver, he's throwing me balls. And when I'm playing quarterback,
yeah.
he's catching balls. And like, I just kept working hard. And so I know that's a long answer to a question, but like there's just a lot of stuff that happened where I grew a lot, learned a lot about myself, and ultimately I think it made me a lot better when I went to South.
Yeah, I think your kind of mindset is a little uncommon these days because you tried, when you found out you weren't going to be the backup, right? A lot of people in today's day and age wouldn't have made an attempt like you did to serve the team and to be like, all right, I'm just going to try and get on the field any way I can. A lot of kids would have just hit the portal immediately and probably a lot earlier than you even did. So kind of talk about what, and I think I know the answer, but what was your reasoning for trying to fight that out and trying to kind of finish what you started before just jumping ship, which is pretty common, these days.
Yeah, I mean it was kind of multifaceted. Like the number one reason was like my dad always told me like academics, take advantage of a scholarship. So like it was going into my last spring, I had 18 credits left to graduate. So I'm like, let me just take 18. I'm going to graduate. And at the time, before the portal, it was like, if you want to go D1 to D1, you got to graduate. So that's what I did. So I really like made that a point of emphasis. And that whole spring, I played receiver. And I was really like kind of having fun with it because I'm like, I don't know where this is going to go, but I was like starting to get pretty good. And then like spring, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna graduate. And like I sat down with the coach and I'm like, all right, this is kind of the conversation where like I'm gonna decide if I should leave or if I should stay. Because like again, I loved my teammates. Like it was a legit conversation where I'm like, even if I'm not gonna play, should I just stay on the team? Because like I don't want to abandon my teammates. Like that's just how I thought about it at the time. And so I sat down with my coach and I'll never forget how he worded it to me. He was like, well, obviously you're going to be a backup at best at receiver and maybe you'll play special teams. And I'm just like, all right, well, if it's that obvious, like, I think it's time that I should probably go. And like, I had some conversations that year where like, I had coaches like question me if I was like all in with the team. And they were like, they'd say things like, you're not all in on this team. And like, for me, that is the deepest thing that someone could ever say to me is like, that I'm not all in with the team. Like, I'll do anything for the team. And so that was just when I'm like, okay, I think it's kind of run its course. Like, maybe I should just go look for upper opportunities. And then, it was just interesting how the transfer process worked out because I had opportunities at quarterback and receiver. So it was just kind of, it was time to go, and I had kind of exhausted all my opportunities there.
Yeah, I know we had talked about that a little bit. When you entered the portal, you did have opportunities to play both positions, and I'm sure you're very happy with the decision you made, but kind of talk about that decision. What made you just go all in on quarterback and kind of not take those? Because I think you said you had some bigger offers to play receiver than you did for quarterback, and you decided to choose quarterback. So why did you do that?
Yeah, it was like, well, I think when we talked on the phone, I kind of told you because you were telling me about your transfer process, and I was just giving my 2 cents, for what it's worth. And, I always tell kids the same thing too, where I'm like, look, go somewhere where you're going to play. Like, I know it's like the sexy thing to try to go to the big schools. And like, I got tempted with that too. Like, Arizona State was hitting me up to come play receiver. And like, I talked to Wisconsin and like, some bigger Division I schools. And I'm like, man, Arizona State, like, how fun would that be? Like, and people are going to think
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
beast. And that's a true thought that creeps in your mind, especially nowadays, even more so with like social media. Like everybody cares about likes and like what do people think about what I'm doing, especially at a young age, man. It's like it's real. And so, that was something I had to grapple with, and all the schools that wanted me for quarterbacks were lower level FCS, like South Dakota, who is a great program now, but at the time like had never had a winning season as a Division I school. Tennessee, Tennessee Tech or something like that, and like Western Illinois was my only, quarterback offers. And funny enough, like I ended up South Dakota was my first offer, and like I can't remember if I told you this story, but I remember driving up, and like I grew up in Chicagoland area. I'm in school at Minnesota University at Minneapolis, and so I'm in cities, right? And so I'm driving up to South Dakota, dude. I'm coming in the back way off this highway, and there is nothing. It's cornfields, and then you just see the dome. And I remember looking over to my dad, and I'm like, dude, I can't go here. Like, there's literally nothing here. And I just remember him being like, dude, it's 18 months. You can do anything for 18 months. You can do it for a year. Like, you just give it a chance. And I remember that visit, man. I like the guys that hosted me, still some of my best friends to this day. We had a great time. And like, I really hit it off with the dudes on the team, which I'm sure you guys can tell is like extremely important to me to have relationships with those guys. I had a great talk with the head coach and like the quarterback coach. And it just like, it was super energizing for me to think about playing quarterback because as you guys both know, there's nothing like it, dude. There's nothing like having the ball in your hands, the preparation that goes into playing quarterback. It's like you got to take pride in that, and like I love that aspect of the game. And at receiver, like it's fun. You get to go get out there and be saucy, but like you're not breaking down tape. You don't have to do all those things quite as much. And like I'm just like I love that process of playing quarterback. And just the more I thought about it, I'm like, you know what? I don't even care about going to a big school. I just want to go somewhere where I'm going to play. I got 2 years and I'm just going to enjoy football. And at that point, that's when I was like, dude, I'm not going pro. Like, I don't like even my coach at Minnesota, Jerry Kill, he called me one day. He's like, if you want to go pro, you better play receiver because you're not going to play quarterback. And I was just like, I guess I'm not going pro. Like, that's fine. I'm just going to go play football, have fun, and let that take care of itself. And, it did. Things work out. Like I say, when you work hard and trust yourself, it works out.
And it's funny you say that because like at that point in your career, that stress and that expectation that you set on yourself to play in the NFL was gone. And you kind of had that, to me, it sounds like you had that weight off your shoulders. You're like, I'm just going to go out there and play for me, play for my guys, and go let it rip and just have fun. And I would assume those are probably the 2 best years of football you ever played in your entire life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I
And
played
I
free.
think
I grew.
go ahead.
I just grew a lot, bro, because I didn't put like pressure on myself. You know, like I
Yeah,
mean, I remember having a conversation with my girlfriend at the time in college, and I'm like, dude, like, should I just go into the Marines? Like, I feel like I would do a great job in the Marines. You know, like that's where I was in my
yeah,
life. I'm like, okay, football's not happening. That's okay. And so, like, when I got that opportunity, it was just like such a different mindset because I was able to be a leader. Like, guys are looking at me like, dude, this guy came from Minnesota. Like, okay, what's he about? And like I got to be a leader and like I got to really like just grow in that way. And like you said, I got to play loose, I got to play free, and like of course you put pressure on yourself because you want to play good, but it's just pressure because I want to play good and I want to win and I want to win with my teammates. It's not because I'm like I got to go to the league and I got to show this guy and this guy, I got to prove this guy wrong. That's never my motivation. My motivation is always just to be my best and try to win with my boys. That's all I care about.
yeah. 100%.
No
Yeah.
doubt, Chris.
100%.
And so, like, into that thing of putting pressure on yourself, like you and Mitch just talked about, like, so the transition, because a lot of these young cats now with technology and just where we're at, like, there's a lot of pressure that they keep within themselves and put on themselves, and a lot of them aren't able to get out of it. You were able to get out of it. Was it the change in level to you? Was it that you had evolved and grown as a person and realized that a lot of the shit that you were putting on your shoulders wasn't shit that you needed to be carrying? Like, what was the thing for you that allowed you to let that go? Was it as simple as the school, or was it deeper within yourself too?
I think it was a couple things, man. It was just a change of scenery. Sometimes that's nice, you know,
Yeah.
and being around some new people and like new coaches who like really believe in you in a different way. You know, I was in like I was in a three-way quarterback competition all of camp. But I remember like leading into that through the spring, I would always go in and watch film with the quarterback coach and just pick his brain. And we would just talk ball, and we started to develop a really good relationship. And ultimately, like that's where my IQ of the game like really skyrocketed. But like it was just having people that believed in me, you know, and like seeing me from a different perspective. And like I said, I was still extremely raw. Like I was still kind of like a runner and a passer. You know what I mean? Like I needed that running to win games. But you know, I was allowed the opportunity to like grow into myself and start to learn what it means to actually be a good quarterback and not just an athlete back there. And having people that believed in me, both my teammates and my coaches, like it really just went a long way to like me developing. And look, that first year at South Dakota, like we didn't have a ton of success. Like we went 4-7, but I remember like we lost all of our games by like less than one score. It was like 7 or less points. And I just remember going into that offseason, I'm like we're really close. Like I know we're really close. And so that was the off season where things just like took off, and I just started to push, and like you bring guys along. Because when I got there, man, like I specifically remember this conversation I had with one of my buddies on the team, still a buddy to this day, Riley Donovan, and he was on that team forever, man. And like I said, they never had a winning season as a D1 program. And when I got there, I was like, "What's your guys' like best memory of football here?" And he was like, man, like when we went to Oregon and played there, that was sick. I'm like, oh, like you guys gave him a game? You guys won? He's like, no, I mean, we lost like 36-10, but like just the environment was sick. And I'm like, dude, how is that your best memory of playing football, bro? Like we got to change. And I was just like, dude, like, what's going on with this program? And so that kind of just like set the tone of like what I'm coming into and like what we have to grow into. But I saw the character of guys. I saw how guys cared, and like I fit right into that of like guys that want to work hard, and they just, you know, we just needed that extra push. And you know, my senior year, we did some special stuff, and it was really fun.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, you did some special stuff. You're first team All-American, and at the FCS level, like that's some special shit right there. All right, so your time is over at South Dakota, and it's time to turn pro, work on the pro day stuff and all that, and so you go undrafted and you get a shot in the CFL. So kind of take us through that process. I don't really even know how that really works. Going from to the CFL and trying to get into Canada. I know Austin knows a little bit about it, but I don't think the audience does, and I don't really know what's that whole process like.
Yeah, no, like I feel like no one knows. I didn't know, and like
Yeah,
after my senior year, I'm like, okay, like man, like I think I might be able to go to the league. Like I don't know what just happened, but like fuck, might happen. And so like I go to my pro day, and like not to gas myself up, but I had a great pro day, man. I ran a 4.4, I ran a 4.44 40, jumped 38 and a half. Like I had a great day. I think I maybe threw one incompletion. I'm like, oh my gosh, like And all 32 teams were there because South Dakota and South Dakota State, we combined our pro days. And that was the year that Dallas Goedert was coming out. And he was,
Oh, hell yeah, yeah.
pick. So all 32 teams are there. And I'm just like, okay, this is my opportunity. Like, you know, and so, I get an agent, and through this whole process, I remember hearing from Paul LaPolice, the offensive coordinator at the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and he calls me one day, as I'm preparing for my pro day. He's like, "Hey, Chris, I'm Paul LaPolice. I'm the offensive coordinator for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I just want to let you know we have you on our neg list." So that's what it's called, the neg list, and it's basically like CFL teams. They call dibs essentially on 40 American dudes. So like you can put anyone on there too. So like when Johnny Manziel came up, he was on Hamilton's neg list, right? They like had dibs on him, so they signed him, right? It's like first dibs to sign. So that's what he told me. And so I'm like, okay, like CFL's an option, like, all right, cool. But like I still think like maybe the NFL will happen. So, I have my pro day, I have an agent, the draft's here. It's day 3. I'm like, okay, something might happen. Looking back on it, dude, I never really had any traction with any teams. Like, I got like 3 calls from teams being like, hey, is this the right phone number just in case? I'm like, dude, the Ravens called me? Like, it was a 20-second conversation. So, like, the draft comes and goes, and, like, I have some family out, and I'm like, okay, like, maybe this will happen. Nothing happens. Phone, I'm sitting. All right, nothing happened. All right, let's go to Char Bar. Let's go have a little night. We'll come back tomorrow. Maybe I'll hear something then. Well, the next day goes, the next day goes, the next day goes. I haven't heard anything for 4 days now. And, like, for anyone that knows the NFL draft, it's like, even if you're, like, an unsigned free agent, like, you're hearing the last round of the draft, right? Even if you're, like, a rookie minicamp invite guy, like, you're getting those invites. I'm not hearing anything. So I'm like, you know what? I can hold out. Like, the Seahawks called my agent, like, I don't know, 5 days after, and they're like, yeah, I'll come out to minicamp. And I just remember having this conversation with myself of, like, okay, this guy, Paul LaPolice, has been talking to me for months, man. Like, this guy seems to really like me. And the Seahawks, they waited 5 days after the draft to call me. Like, what are the odds of me actually making that team? Is that a real opportunity? I didn't think it was. And I'm like, look, this CFL team, like, they seem to really like me. This seems like a real opportunity to get to play. And so I just went. Like, I didn't even go to the mini camp. I was just like, you know what? I'm signing with the CFL. I went up for camp, and I mean, that's another crazy story. Like, I might be getting ahead of myself, but, like, I guess I can tell the story of when I went up to Winnipeg in that first camp, because it's crazy, man. And, like, it backs up everything I tell kids about, like, just go where you're going to play because you don't know what's going to happen. So I go to Winnipeg, dude, and I sign. It's me and Alex Ross, this guy that was playing in BC. We signed. We're going to compete for the 3rd string spot. I'm like, all right. Dude, the first day of camp, the backup quarterback retires. So now the backup spot's open. He just up and leaves. So the backup spot's open. We're competing. First preseason game, I go out. I go 10 for 10, 140 yards, and a tub. Didn't throw an incompletion. And I'm just competing. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just doing my best. I don't even know the rules of this game up here. I'm just trying to find open. So that happens, dude. And I'm like, obviously in a good position. Dude, the last practice of camp, the starter tears his meniscus in his knee, goes down. So now the starting job's open. Well, I was competing in camp. I went where I was going to play, and I ended up starting the first 3 games of my career and having success. All because I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go where they seem to appreciate me and where that opportunity seems best. Let me go take that. And it opened up all the doors of everywhere I went after that. And so kind of just validated that whole mindset of go where you're appreciated and go where you're going to get a real chance to play.
I think that's so awesome. I think that's such a great thing for kids to hear because, like you said earlier, like, kids are chasing likes and follows and comments, and it's so cool to go to, this school and sit for 4 years, but instead of going to this school and playing for 3. And I think that's such a great message because that is delaying, some short-term gratification for a long-term goal is so uncommon in society these days, not even just the football world, but just in society. So I think it just speaks to who you are and your character and being able to make that decision, especially at a young age. I mean, you were 23 when you made that choice. I think it's awesome. I think that's super important for young Qs to hear it. It's playing in the game and getting game reps is 10 times more important than the brand and the logo on your jersey.
100%, bro. And like, that's kind of the conversation we were having when we talked on the phone.
Yeah.
And that's what I was telling you. Like, I don't know what your opportunities look like as you transfer, but like, go somewhere where you're going to play, man, because you want to play football. Like, that's why you play the game. So you can go play and make memories with your boys and like enjoy that time, so just, there's so much to be said about that. And like you said, man, Instagram and social media, it's great from a platform standpoint to try to get your brand out there. And But and it doesn't really matter. Like, who really cares about you? Like, the people that you love, the people in your circle, your family, like, those are the people whose opinions matter. These dudes on social
Exactly.
media, like, I don't care what they think about me. You know, like,
Exactly.
just go what's going to be best for you. And, you know, it's easy to get wrapped up in that these days. And so you just try to steer people in the right direction and kids because there's so many external noise and things like that going on.
100%. That's something I always tell kids and the young guys is and I even tell my parents this, like, because you know how you're starting the ACC and you're getting crucified on Twitter, dude, like just crucified. And I had to tell my parents, like, listen, if these aren't people that I would take advice from, then I'm not going to take criticism from them. Like, I'm good. Like, so I think it's just another important thing to say. Like, if you wouldn't, who cares what the people comment? If you wouldn't take advice from that person and they comment fire emojis on your post, who cares, bro? Like, it does not matter. That's not what you're chasing. So I just want to party hat what you said. I totally agree with you.
That's so real, bro.
As we finish up that first year, Chris, with Winnipeg too, like what that year look like real quick, like just in terms of you get on the field and then what that looked like, because obviously like you end up playing for the Arizona Cardinals the next year, so like you were one and done up in the CFL. So that boy that rode with you and was loyal to you to get you there, like you kind of jetted after a year. How'd that first year go?
It was crazy, man. I was up there for 2 years actually, bro. So like my first year, it was crazy. So like I started the first game of the year, and that was the first time in 30 years that a rookie had started their first career game in the CFL. Like it's super rare. It's a different game. Like it's just it doesn't happen. And obviously a bunch of things happened for me to be in that position. And man, I'll never forget that first game. It was a 6 hour game. We had two rain delays, bro. Like I think I ended up throwing a touchdown pass, and we ended up losing on a last second kick. But like I think I threw like 3 touchdowns, and it was like, okay, I think I could play in this league. And then the next week we went to Montreal, and still one of my favorite memories in the CFL. Like we went out there, we beat them 56-10, and you know I played well, and everyone played well, and you know it was just like, okay, I can play at the professional level. And you know, just quick sidetrack is like one of the coolest things about coming to Winnipeg was one of my best friends at Minnesota. His name's Drew Waltarski. He was a receiver there, and we were roommates. Like this is my best friend at Minnesota on the team. Dude, this dude's a Canadian citizen and he's on the team in Winnipeg when I get up there. So like I'm like, dude, this is like my best friend from Minnesota's on the team. And in those first 2 games, I ended up throwing him 3 touchdown passes, and it was like his first touchdown of his career. And like we were
That's
growing up together,
awesome, dude.
dude. And like to this day, he's still on the team, man. Like I was his best man in his wedding in Australia this year. Like this is my dog. So like that was really cool as like a young guy, like being there with one of my best friends and like having that confidence and like getting to grow up with him. And um so yeah, man, that happened. Like I started the first 3 games of the year. There were some ups and downs, obviously. Like after that Montreal game, I'm like, yeah, we might be pretty good. We go and get smacked like 31-17, and it's like, okay, dude, this is pro ball. Like, calm down.
Yeah.
But, you know, anyone that knows the CFL, like, there's this thing called the wedge. And so it's essentially like 2nd and 1. The D line is a yard off the ball. So, you know, 2nd and 1, 3rd and 1, you kind of have this wedge package where it's like different quarterback sneaks and you go in and do that. And so after those first 3 games when the starter came back, I was the wedge guy. But then they kind of built a package for me off of that. So, you know, I'd do a quarterback sneak, and then I'd get to run like a quick no huddle play or like a zone read or like throw a quick pass. And so, you know, I kind of just embraced that role. Like I was never mad of like, oh, the starter came back, I should be playing. I was just like, man, I'm pumped to be playing ball. Like I'm just going to do what I can. And you know, I ended up scoring, I don't know, 20 touchdowns or something my rookie year, and like got to play a huge role in that offense. We ended up coming up short in the Western Final. Excuse me. And then my next year, starters back, back in the wedge role for the first half of the season. And you know, he ends up going down, tears his rotator cuff in the 9th game of the year. So now I'm the guy. And, you know, I come in, we're playing, we have some really good games, we have some bad games. It's kind of like up and down for the last half of the season, and kind of start to find my rhythm here, like towards the back end. And I break my ankle in the second to last regular season game of the season. So I broke my ankle, tore my high ankle ligament, tore my low ankle ligament. It was a bad injury. So like I go get my MRIs and everything. They're like, all right, you're done for the year. And like, mind you, I'm already getting hit up from my agent, like, yo, NFL teams want to work you out after the season. Like the Buccaneers just called me, blah, 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 this and that. So I'm like, man, I might go to the league after this. Um, So I get hurt, dude, and I'm done for the year. And so we have our last regular season game, and then we have like a week off because our last week of the year was a bye, and then we're going into playoffs. And so like I'm down in the dumps, man. I'm like, fuck, man, I'm done for the year, this and that. Well, like a couple days in, I like talk to the trainer. I'm like, man, is there like any way I could come back? He's like, probably not. I'm like, probably not.
Probably.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, what can I do? He's like, well, the best thing you can do, man, is just like get in the therapy pool and just like move it around as much as you can. That was all I needed to hear, dude. I lived in that therapy pool. I was in that pool for 8 hours a day. I'm not even kidding, dude. I'd set my iPad up, I'd turn on Netflix, and I'd just be running in this pool. And as I got healthier and healthier, like this is like 10 days after I broke my ankle. I remember the owners walking in, and I'm like, oh, dude, Wade's in here. I got to show him I'm healthy. So I'm like sprinting in the pool, like showing him like, dude, I can go. And so it's maybe like 5 days before our first playoff game. This is like, I don't know, 16 days after I broke my ankle. And the trainer's like, all right, like he can tell I'm pressing. He's like, all right, we're going to go out and run and see where you're at. And I'm like, I'm telling everyone in the locker room, I'm like, dude, I'm about to go run today. Like he's going to clear me. Like there was no doubt in my mind, like I'm coming back. So I go out, dude. It's 5 a.m. or it's 6 a.m. Cold. It's Canada. I'm just gritting my teeth. I have this broken ankle. I'm running. I'm like trying to show him I'm not hurt. At the end of it, he's like, dude, I think you can come back and like have your package again. Like I don't think you can start a whole game, but like you can do your package. So, bro, I came back in that first playoff game and like I played through this broken ankle. I rushed for like 85 yards and a touchdown. I had like 20 rushes, dude. It was like -10. They're just and dude, so like we won that game. Obviously played the next week. We won that game. Played again in the Grey Cup. So I played 3 games with this broken ankle, man. And like I got to play a role in the Grey Cup. I threw a touchdown. I had a catch. I had some rushes. Like, and it was just like the most special thing for me to like obviously accomplish that goal with my teammates, right? That's the ultimate goal, and you just dream about winning a championship. And like, you know, people might say it's the CFL or whatever, but like, man, it's so real. Like, it's so real. It's professional football, and so that was just like amazing. And also like for me personally to like set my mind on something and be like, I'm coming back. Like I decided it's happening, and then like work towards that and have it happen, and then like for me to like score like the touchdown that iced the game. Like I just remember those emotions of like, holy shit, man, this just validated everything I've ever believed. Like, if you put something in your mind and have a positive mindset and just work your ass off, you can literally do anything. And I don't know if that's me being crazy, but like, that's how I think. And that's how I think now with my ACL, bro. Like, I really just, that validated that. And so everything I've ever been through, including my time in the NFL, which I'm sure we'll talk about, like, I've always just relied on that. Like, put it in your mind, work hard. It's going to happen, you know? And it was just a really cool experience to get to win that. And like, I don't know if you've ever seen, but like, if you guys look up that Grey Cup celebration, dude, it was pretty unbelievable. I had this fur coat on. I got this cowboy hat on. I gave a speech.
I've seen your ass, dude. My brother and I sent the video back and forth. They're like, look at this bad motherfucker, dude, doing this thing.
That's
Dude,
all.
dude, we took the practice squad QB on his stomach. We wrote "more beer, please." We're like holding him up in front of the news cameras, dude. People are chucking us beers. Like it was just like the time of our life, man. It was
That's
unbelievable.
awesome. That's
Yeah, it was great.
And that cape, so that cape takes us to the NFL, dude. So
Yeah.
so we go to the NFL, and it's like, obviously, like this is a process that, aside from my friends, like I'm ignorant to it too. Definitely didn't play quarterback in the NFL. So like that transition now is like, I'm sure you felt a little bit, like you said, which I thought was cool, just like that validation after you kick that team's ass in week 2 in the CFL, where you're like, holy shit, all right, I'm a pro, like I can do this. So like, not that you doubted confidence prior to that, but like now, you know, like there's no limits here. So what, through your agent, you get connected with the Cardinals, and like that's how that thing goes down, and then you show up. Like, yeah, just talk through that transition process and then what that was like as you got there.
It was kind of one of those things where like the process was slowed down because, like I said, I had a broken ankle. So like we had like 10 or 12 teams hitting up my agent, being like, "Yo, come work out." He's like, dude's ankle's broken. Like, we need until January. And so, like, only 3 teams ended up working me out. And so that's kind of how that goes if you're, you know, a free agent or like a guy from the CFL, is you got to go work out for teams. So I ended up working out for Arizona, Tampa Bay, and Miami. And they all offered to sign me afterwards. And the reason I chose Arizona was just really kind of went back to everything I talked about before, was like, Cliff Kingsbury played in Winnipeg. He played in the CFL. And I just remember like he just like seemed invested in me. Like he seemed like he cared. I remember first time I saw him, he's like, "Oh, you go to Earl's?" And dude, Earl's was my spot up here. Like I'm like, "Dude, you went to Earl's?" Like so we're just immediately like he respected where I came from, and something I learned over my time in the NFL is like, dude, the CFL gets no respect. It does not get the respect it deserves. And so like it was cool to have a head coach who like respected where I came from and respected that that's pro football, you know? Because I'm the first one to tell you the level of players up here, man, shit's legit. And you see it with guys all the time that come from the NFL that think this is going to be a walk in the park and they struggle. Like you look at Manziel, you look at these guys who come up here and they think it's going to be sweet. Dude throws 5 picks in the first half of his first game. Like this is real ball. And so for someone to like believe that and like see that in me, it meant a lot. And so that was kind of how that process unfolded. And and then from there it was just training camp and everything like that. So it was crazy, man. It was COVID, crazy times.
Brutal. And people like us, Chris, like we need to feel the fire in a lot of ways, dude. We have to feel the fire. So like up until this point, like, yeah, Minnesota, but at that point, like that seems like an eternity ago. Like you had South Dakota and then you're in Winnipeg and you're a part of it and you're playing and you win the Grey Cup and the whole thing. How was now being in the NFL and like sheer salaries alone, like, you're not touching the field. So like what was that like for you? Like, how'd you feel about that?
Dude, it was just like I wasn't even thinking about that at all. I was just like so thankful to be there, man. I was just like so pumped. I'm just like, okay, like I got to make this count. And so, I always tell the story of, man, my first like week and a half at camp, bro, I didn't get a rep. I didn't get a rep in practice. And we only had 3 quarterbacks. It was me, Kyler, and Brett Hundley. And I didn't get a rep in practice. And I'm like, man, this is crazy. Like, what can I do? So this is what I did, man. I just got in line during one of the special teams drills, and we were doing kickoff return. And I just got in line as the off returner. And I'm like, these guys don't know anything about me. I'm just going to run as fast as I can. Dude, I was beating the returner. Like, I was out in front of the returner. Like, I'm cooking him. And I just remember the next day I go into meetings, and, like, the special teams coach is like, Strev. I'm like, oh, what's up, coach? He's like, dude, what did you run your 40 in? I'm like, I ran a 4.4. He's like, yeah, it looks like it. And he's like gassing me up in the meetings. And I'm like, holy shit. So the next day, dude, I checked the depth chart. Sure enough, dude, I'm the 6th string off returner on KOR. And I'm like 4th string, like L2 on kickoff. And I'm like, oh, let's go. I'm about to rep in these drills. And that's how it started, man. I just started going hard on special teams and just showing them I was athletic. And then after that, a couple days later, I remember they gave me 2 reps at quarterback, bro. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting reps at quarterback through a completion. Couple days later, I'm getting 4 reps. Couple days later, I'm getting 6 reps. By the end of camp, me and Hundley are splitting reps. And I'm like, I'm not even focused on anything other than the fact of like, this is what I'm getting today. Never in my mind was I like, I'm about to compete and be the backup. It was always like, okay, what do I get today? How can I stick around? Like, how can I show them who I am? And by the end of camp, I remember my buddy Max Williams, we played at Minnesota together too. And he was like, dude, like, are you going to be our backup quarterback? I'm like, I don't know. I hadn't even thought about it. I'm like, I feel like I might make the practice squad. Dude, he's like, I'm pretty sure you're going to be our backup. Lo and behold, man, later that day, we're in meetings and Cliff's like, Strev, like, stick around. I'm like, oh, okay, what's up? He's like, man, I just want to tell you, man, you've been going hard. Like, I think you're really picking things up. Like, you're going to be our number 2 this year. I'm just letting you know. I just remember, like, I had to hold it in, but I'm just, like, getting choked up inside. I'm like, I never imagined this would be me. Like, I had coaches at Minnesota telling me that you'll never go pro as a quarterback, and, like, I'm about to be the backup on an NFL team. Like, I just made the team. And so I remember, calling my parents and, like, dude, they're all just, like, crying and, like, so happy. And, it was just such a surreal thing because I just didn't think that would be me. And I never, like, that wasn't, like, my vision. It was just, like, what can I do today? What can I do with this 1 rep? Like, I didn't worry about what was going to go down the road. It was just staying in the moment. And, that's what got me there. And, you talked about the salaries. And so this is kind of a funny story. Like, I remember when I made the team, bro, I had $600 in my bank account because I moved out during COVID. And I moved to Arizona thinking, like, all right, OTAs. So I got an apartment, everything. And, like, there was no OTAs, so we didn't get paid. So I remember I had $600, dude. And I remember the night the first check dropped, I woke up at midnight, dude. I had to check my account. I'm like, oh my, I got a couple zeros in my account. Like, let's go. Like, I can play again. So it was just like crazy how quick things change. And man, just like I always tell kids too, like, just be present, man. Focus on this 1 rep. Focus on what you can do. Like, I was a quarterback and I made the NFL by taking a rep as an off returner, as a kickoff return. I don't know how to do that, but I just went hard. And, you never know. And so I always just try to preach that to kids, like, man, take it from me. Like, I was down and out. I didn't even get a rep. It started off playing special teams, man, and I ended up being the backup. Like, you just never know. Just go hard and work hard.
That's badass, dude. That's the coolest I've ever heard in my life.
This is like a 3-hour podcast right now, but I told you guys I had stories, man.
No,
Dude, I really appreciate that.
Are you kidding me? Yeah, let that shit
so
roll.
Badass.
Well, I
That
think,
is super badass.
the only other part of that I was going to say is, like, just so exemplary too, bro. Like, yes, the grit, the work ethic, and staying in the moment, but also, like, back to how you feel about the team, bro. Like, you said that, like, the one thing that, like, would hurt you the most is, like, a guy ever questioning whether, like, you were doing everything you could for the team. And, like, I came at it through a question of, like, fuck, dude, you're kind of an afterthought now because K1 is the guy. Like, how'd you do? And, like, you weren't even there. Like, you were in the, like, dude, how the fuck can I help the squad? And, like, that's obviously Chris Streveler is his own person, but it's like, it's that strong Taysom Hill vibes too, dude, where it's just like, I'll do fucking anything at any time. And, like, just, yeah, the loyalty to the team, man. So that, I mean, then you go through that season. Was it 1 year with the Cardinals or was it 2?
Dude, so I was there for a year and like 3 quarters, man. And like, I'll tell you that story too, just to illustrate the NFL, man. So like,
Rip it.
dude, backup all year. And I mean, I'll be the first to tell you. So I end up going in the last game of the year against the Rams. We're in LA. And this is like, winner goes to the playoffs, man. And I went in, didn't play great. I threw a pick 6. It was like a hard count. I thought we had him offsides. And so I kind of just like threw the ball up. Bad pick 6. I thought it was a penalty. Wasn't. And, we just had some unfortunate stuff happen that game. Like, it wasn't my best game, but I didn't think it was, like, career-ending. And it wasn't. Going into that next offseason, they signed Colt McCoy, so he was the backup, but they still, like, I still had a great camp. I had a really strong preseason, and they kept me as the 3. I was on the active roster. I was just, like, inactive for games. So, yeah, man, that season goes on. It's, like, week 8, K1 goes down, and so we're playing. A couple weeks go by, Colts starting. We're kind of losing a game really big to Carolina, like 31-3. He kind of gets banged up. They put me in. I think I go like, I don't know, 6 for 9 with like 40 yards or something. I don't really do anything, but like we put together a scoring drive. I'm like, okay, we kind of showed something. So the next week goes by. Everything's normal. Colts starting. I'm the backup. And then the next week is our bye week, dude. It's Tuesday and Thanksgiving's on Thursday. And I'll never forget, I'm sleeping on the couch, just taking a nap, and I wake up to a call from our head scout. And I know this guy pretty good, man. He went to South Dakota State. I went to South Dakota, so like we kind of would like chirp each other a little bit. He's like, "Yo, Strev, what's up, man?" I'm just like, "Nothing, man. I'm just getting ready to head up north to see my mom." He's like, "Yeah, bro, did you see the news?" I'm like, "No, what's up?" He's like, "Man, it just leaked on Twitter. We're about to cut you tomorrow, so just go ahead and bring all your stuff in." And dude, this is like week 11 of the season. Like, I'm in deep. I literally just closed on a house in Arizona. I'm like putting roots down. I'm like, man, I'm here. Cut me, man. And so that was like my first introduction to like, all right, dude, this is the league. Like, this is cutthroat. This is what everyone talks about. And that was like really hard for me mentally because like I was really like, I loved being in Arizona. I liked that system. Liked the guys on the team. And it happened fast, man, because that happened. And then like 4 days later, man, I'm on a plane to Baltimore and I'm out with the Ravens. And dude, so like I finish up that time with the Ravens, and like it was just hard, man, because like I wasn't expecting that. It was COVID. I ended up getting COVID, and like it was just like 6 weeks. It was hard. And so they kind of tell me after that, like, hey, we're not going to bring you back next year, so go ahead and find something else. I'm like, man, all right, I'm really getting thrown in the ringer. Like, is this it for me? Well, then the Dolphins called me that offseason, dude, and so I signed with the Dolphins in the offseason. And I'm like, all right, I'm at the Dolphins. Like, this is sick, man. Tyreek, I'm Tua. Like, I made some good friends. River Craycraft, want to talk about a dude with an unreal story. One of my best buddies. Great dude, whatever.
Washington State legend.
Dude, go Cougs, baby. Come on.
Come on.
So yeah, man. So I know I'm getting long-winded here, but I go to Dolphins, and I'm there for OTAs, and things are rolling. And I kind of remember, like, I felt like the quarterback coach, like, we didn't really have, like, we just weren't really vibing. So I remember, like, going in and talking to him one day, and I was just like, hey, man, like, what are you thinking? Like, how you feel about me? Like, I think I'm picking things up, but I just kind of want to have that conversation, like, where am I? Like, no, man, I feel like you're really getting it good. Like, your mentality's good. You're getting the playbook down. I'm like, all right, cool. He's like, yeah, we want you to compete through camp. I'm like, perfect. That's all you can ask for. Dude, I'm not even kidding, man. The next day they draft Skylar Thompson and I'm getting cut. And I'm just like, man, I cannot catch a break right now. So I'm at home and this is when I'm like, okay, man, I've been cut 3 times in a matter of 6 months. I'm like, is this it? Should I go back to the CFL? The Jets hit my agent and they're like, all right, man, like we kind of need a camp arm. Like, what do you think about this guy? And like, I'm sitting there, I'm like, do I really want to go into another situation where I'm just a body and like they don't care? Like I'm not going to make the team. I'm like down on myself right now because I just can't stick, man. It's been a lot of hard stuff, a lot of adversity, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take it. And I went to the Jets, and that ended up being like the best decision I ever made.
Yeah, I mean,
I can tell you the Jets story too. I just wanted to pause because I just
keep going, bro. I was waiting for you to keep going.
Yeah,
Like
I
you
want you to
stopped, and I
keep
was
rolling.
like, keep rolling, bro.
All right, so I go to the Jets, dude, and this is a crazy story too, man. I told you guys I had stories. So I get to the Jets, and they got Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, and Mike White. I'm like, okay, this room is solidified. Like they have 3 dudes who are
That's the
definitely
best room.
Yeah, I'm like, that's why I was like, dude, should I even go? Like, I'm definitely not going to make this team. Just go. Like these opportunities don't come. So I go, man, and the first 2.5 weeks of camp, I didn't get a rep in practice at all. Didn't get a rep. I don't even think guys on the team knew my name, man. I was just like a guy. And I just remember that was one of the hardest times. I'm calling my girl. I'm just like, dude, why am I here? Like, I'm wasting time. Like, no one even knows me. And it was like leading into the first preseason game. It was weird, man. I had like 5 people hit me up like on the same day being like, how you doing? Like, kind of checking in. And I was like kind of going through it because I'm like, I'm just waiting to get cut. Like, I know what this looks like. I've been through it before. And so I kind of had some good conversation with people in my life, and a lot of them were just like, dude, stay up. Like, keep working because, like, you don't know what's going to happen. And, like, it kind of reminded me, like, fuck, man, this is what you're about, bro. Like, keep working. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. So I'll never forget. After that, I would run extra sprints after practice, even though I wasn't getting reps. I would take the script and, like, throw extra balls to the practice squad dudes just in case, man. Lo and behold, first preseason game comes, and Joe Flacco wakes up. I mean, he's in year 15. His back's a little tight. They're like, all right, Joe's not going to play. So the coach comes up to me. He's like, hey, dude, like, Joe's not going to play. You may get some snaps here in the fourth quarter. I'm like, oh, my gosh, let's go. Like, I haven't taken a snap in practice, dude. Like, they're like, all right, we're in the room with the center so he can hear your cadence. Like, that's where we're at. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, before the game, I'm like getting juiced up. Dude, Zach goes down in the first quarter, tears his meniscus in his knee. Comes up to me, he's like, yeah, you're going to go in the fourth quarter. I'm like, let's go. So I go in, man. I haven't taken a snap all of camp. Throw 2 touchdown passes, threw a game-winning touchdown pass with 17 seconds left in the game, won the game, bro. After the game, guys didn't even know my name. Sala gives me a shout-out in the locker room, like, how about Streveler? Like, I haven't taken a snap in practice. And these guys are mobbing me. Dude, I break the team down after the game. It's like the most unreal thing. And I'm like, how did this just happen? Like, crazy. So I'm like, okay, what's going to happen? Well, the next week in practice, dude, we have joint practices with Atlanta Falcons. I have a great week of practice. They're like, okay, you might go in the fourth quarter. Joe's not going to play. Mike's going to start the game. You might play in the fourth. Well, we're struggling on offense. So I go in after halftime. We're down 10 points. It's pouring rain. We end up coming all the way back. I throw a couple touchdown passes. We win the game. So we come back from like down 10 points in the fourth quarter, win the game. I play the whole second half. I'm like, man, okay, like this is happening. Oh my gosh, like I might make this team. Dude, next week in practice, I don't get a single rep again in practice. We're playing the Giants, and I'm just like, dude, come on. So whatever, that happens. We go into the game. Joe starts the game. Zach's still hurt. Mike plays. There's probably like 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They're like, all right, Strev, you're going in. I go in. We're down 4. I throw a touchdown pass. They go down. They score. Now there's 1:40 left in the game, and I'm going out on the field, dude. And I'll never forget Mike LaFleur coming in my headset. He's laughing, dude. He's like, all right, let's go do this again. Lo and behold, man, go down the field. Fourth down on the 7-yard line. Touchdown pass with 10 seconds left. We win the game, bro. The fans are cheering my name. Like, the team is, like, lifting me up. Like, I'm breaking down the team again. Like, it was the most unbelievable thing. And, again, it just validated everything I ever believed. Like, when it's the hardest, you got to keep going. You got to keep going because you just don't know when that breakthrough's coming. Like, imagine if I would have pouted because I wasn't getting reps, dude. And then I go in that game and I piss down my leg. I'll never be able to live that down for the rest of my life. And I'll have to look in the mirror and say, like, bro, you stopped trying. But instead, I get to look in the mirror and say, man, I validated the mindset of work hard and work ethic and just keep pushing when things look bleak. And man, I had a great preseason, and guess what? 23 hours later, I get the call. Strav, bring your iPad in, bro. We're cutting you. I still got cut. Still got cut. They signed me back to the practice squad, and I stuck on for the year. Played in 3 games and whatever. But like the point is, man, my story is relatable. My story is relatable. Like I was never given some golden platter opportunity. I was never, the 5-star guy. I was never anything more than someone just grinded, kept my head down, and just made the most of opportunities. And that's so much of this game is not only being at the right place at the right time, but being ready to take advantage of those opportunities at the right place at the right time. That's how I view my story, man. That's how I view my journey. And like I said, man, it's a ton of adversity, but like I think you guys could probably at least understand just how like I am wired now just because of all that stuff that I've been through, and like just try to overcome and keep going, man.
I can't wait for you to fly to Austin and we sit down and have a meal, my friend, because it's
No doubt, dude.
holy shit, there's some layers there, and I got a bunch of layers to mine too, and it's just yeah,
We have to do that.
Oh, dude, it's it's a mentality that few understand, and like in today's world, right? Like there's so much immediate gratification with everything, and like the older generation wants to blame the kids, and like you guys are idiots, blah 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 blah. But it's like you guys didn't grow up with fucking phones in your hand when you were 9 years old. Like you don't have all that. It's a different mentality. It's a different way of doing things, and so like your faith, honestly, like in yourself and the process, and just like continuing to just hit like that is, it's something that is a dying breed. Like, to those young kids, like I think faith is a big word too. Like you obviously have a lot of charisma to you and a lot of positivity behind you that you just keep intact. Like, how do you keep up like that? How do you keep that hope? How do you stay that positive the way that you are?
It's always just come down to like control what you can control. And the two things you can control is always your attitude and your effort. And so like I've always found that no matter what's going on, especially when things are going bad, man, people are going to look at you to see how you're acting. And if you're that dude that's just still positive and still trying to uplift those around you, that says more about you than anything else. Like when you go through adversity, that exposes your true character. It's so easy to be like a positive guy and like work hard when you're killing it and you're the starter and you're balling. What happens when you've been cut 4 times in a matter of 6 months, dude? Who are you? Like, how do you show up for the people around you? Like, how hard are you going to go? And so that's how I've always viewed it, is just like I have faith in myself because of those around me that lift me up and having great people, but also just controlling the things I can, man. I can't control some of these things that happen to me, but I can control how hard I go. I can control trying to be a good person and like being a positive guy in the locker room. And, that's actually what got me my opportunity with the Jets. I remember when I sat down, I ended up developing a good relationship with one of their assistant GMs, and he was like, you know what, Strev, like, really glad we brought you in here, man. Like, when we were going to sign you, we asked the Cardinals, like, what type of guy you were, and they just said, great locker room guy, super positive guy, and that's the reason we brought you in. We knew you were just a camp arm, but we weren't going to bring in a guy who was, a dickhead in the locker room. So that's what got you here. And like I tell kids that story too, man. Like, you just never know where being a good person's going to take you. Like, it got me an opportunity in the NFL. Like, who would have thought being a good person would get you an opportunity in the NFL, right? So,
Right.
just come down to the controllables, dude. Control your attitude and your effort, and that's all you can do, and everything else takes care of itself.
Fire.
Dude, I mean, hey,
Anyways, yeah, sorry guys. I'm talking you guys' ears off right now, man. Like,
dude,
it's a lot.
I have not enjoyed listening to someone talk. Besides Austin, I have not listened to someone talk like this in a long time. I appreciate it, dude. I
think
appreciate it.
we all got to get together for real so we can like actually talk, and it's not me just talking at you.
That's
Bro,
what I'm saying.
we have to. We have
I'm
to.
sitting over here right now, and I'm like, I'm not fucking done yet, dude. Like, I want to keep going with this just for a second, which is like, Chris, something that, obviously I want to get into ground up training and just like your idea of helping the younger generation. Like, I definitely want to go there, but I think just like everything that we just talked about in terms of your resiliency, which has been the story the whole time, and all the experiences, all of that. A big thing that I think that guys are struggling with right now, just across college football, high school football, even up in the pros, and I'm sure you've seen it, is their identity being completely wrapped up in just who they are as a football player, right? So, like, through my experiences, you have so many people, especially at the caliber that I played with the coaches and all of these things. It's like you have this thing in your face, your whole career, and it's like, I say candidly that like one of the things I really struggled with was the man who was supposed to talk a certain way behind the microphone, like was also kind of the man that I became off the field. And like, great guy, badass, all that stuff. But like, keeping those two things separate, I think, is something that's extremely important for kids, or at least they don't have to be separate, but like you have to have an understanding of who those are and them not being the same. You, to me, are like this incredible gunpowder eater dude that'll fucking run through a wall and just I'll compete, I'll work, all that shit. And it's like, I'm sure you're like that in your life off the field too, but like, tell us a little bit about the difference between the guy in the locker room and the guy on the field and the guy who's hanging out with your girl at the house.
No, again, man, that's a really good question. And going back to my time at Minnesota, like I really struggled with that. Like that was a big problem for me, was like I didn't know how to put down like football player Strev and like person. You know, like I always was thinking about it. I couldn't turn it off. And like I just found that balance of like being able to step away. And like it started small. Like at South Dakota, I struggled with that at first because when I was doing my master's, everything was online. So I would just watch tape all day and I would do this. And finally my coach was like, dude, you got to go do something, man. Like you have no life. So I remember it started like Thursday was my designated day. It was our off day. And I went to the student union because I never went to class. I just had online classes. So I went to the student union and I'd go with some of my teammates and we would just sit there and like have lunch and I'd interact with students and like go out in public. Like that's where my life was. Like go out in public was like, oh, I'm doing it. And man, I just slowly started to find that balance. Like I had a good group of friends at South Dakota that like I would love to hang out with after games and like, you know, we'd go out and like have fun. And I just found that balance in my life of like putting in work when it's time. And I think a big word for that is being intentional. Like you can't just let it take over your life in every type of way, but being intentional with that work time. And like when I'm working, I'm dialed in. But there's going to be a time like when we get off this call, man, I'm going to watch Thursday Night Football. I'm going to relax. Like I'm going to turn it off. I like to watch football for fun, so that's turning it off for me. But like just finding that balance of like where can you separate? What do you like to do for fun, man? You got to have hobbies. And I see a lot of young guys that come in professionals and it's like, dude, what do you like to do? Like, oh, I don't do anything. It's like, you got to find something to do, man, because if you're just sitting thinking about ball all day, you're going to drive yourself crazy. And what happens when it doesn't go your way? What happens when you get injured and you have nothing else? Like, you got to have something to do. So having hobbies, having people you love to hang out with, like just finding that balance in your life is so key. And then being intentional with your work time.
Well, and your balance is being tested right now because you just got injured up in Winnipeg. So this guy goes full circle all the way back up to Winnipeg and then suffers, a pretty brutal injury. So, you know, how are you doing right now, Chris? Just, I mean, this is par for the course, right? Just in terms of adversity and like just back at it again. But like, I know you also have gotten ground up training. So I think it's like a good segue into that too, of things that you're working on outside of it. You're still 29. You got a lot of ball left ahead of you if that's what you want to do. But like, yeah, talk us through where you're at with that right now.
Dude, I'm doing good, man. And like, it's funny because, well, it's not funny, but like a lot of people around me have torn their ACLs this year, man. Like I was just texting with my buddy Braxton Berrios. He just tore his ACL with the Dolphins. And like one of the QBs I helped train in Arizona tore his ACL. And like there's a lot of that around me. And so, you know, the process of like when that happened, like it was a brutal injury, dude. I tore my ACL, my MCL, my PCL. Like it was bad. And you know, you go through that process where you're accepting reality. You know, you see it happen so many times to other guys, and you just never think it's going to be you, and then it is you. And like you wake up one day, and you're like, you're a top caliber athlete, and then you can't even go up the stairs the next day. You can't even put your socks on. You can't put your shoes on. So like your life is thrown upside down, and it takes time to wrap your mind around that reality. And so I went through that process, and like, thank God for my girl. Thank God for my family, because like my girl was here and like, you know, she's a nurse. So she naturally just knows how to help me and take care of me. And we went on a little trip together to Montreal over our bye week after it happened. And like, it was still hard because like I couldn't really walk and like I had crutches and like I just hate that. But like just to get my mind off it and like be with someone I love and like help me with that, like really help me just like come to reality, right? And that's the first step, is like accepting what just happened.
Totally.
Then I go into surgery, and you come out of surgery, man, and it's like, it's not easy. You know, like you can't lift your leg. My dad came up to Winnipeg for 8 days and is like helping me get around, making food. And then, you know, you start to make progress. And like, that's where it like really clicked for me. Like, okay, I'm going to attack this thing just like any other thing I've ever done. Like, this is no different. Like, I believe in my mind, if I set my vision on something, I can do it, and I'm going to grind my ass off to do it. And dude, I've made amazing progress in a month. Like, I'm already back on the bike. Like, I was supposed to be, I fucking bike 15 kilometers today, man. Like I'm back on the road, and like you just end up like learning to focus on the little victories. Like when I put my socks on for the first time by myself, I'm just like, I fucking put my socks on. Let's go. Like, and everyone's just like, dude, you're psycho. But I'm like, you gotta appreciate the little wins, and it's just like anything, man. You have to appreciate the process. Like you're not gonna get better in one day, but it's those little victories. That's what keeps you going. Like 5 degrees of mobility here, or an extra 5 minutes on the bike here, or getting to do an upper body workout. Like that's what keeps me going. Seeing that progress and just trying to make daily progress. And so like just having this conversation with one of my guys on the team today, just like, your whole reality changes, but you still just apply that same mindset to this process now. And if it was getting ready for football, or if it's getting back from an ACL, it's the same energy, it's the same process. And so whenever people ask me how I'm doing, I just say, great, man. Like I'm getting better every day, and I believe that, and I see that, and that's my goal, is just get better every day. And guess what? When I look up in 5, 6 months, whenever, I'm going to be better, and it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's because I focused on every single day, just like I did with the Cardinals, just like I did with the Jets, just like I've done my whole life. And this is no different, dude. So that's how I approach this whole thing. And that's why this energy I'm giving y'all is like, this is really just who I am. Like, this is really how I try to live my life every day. So
Yeah.
with that,
I can tell.
Yeah,
I
go
can tell I can tell it's authentic. Like you can see a phony from a mile away, and obviously your energy is authentic. And I can appreciate, when you're when people ask how you're doing, you say you're doing great, and you mean it. And physically they look at you and they're like, there's no way he's doing great. He can barely walk. And but you believe you're doing great, and you mean it. And I'm a firm believer in what you speak into the world, your mind hears it. Your mind and body hear it. I'm a firm believer in that. And something that I always prided myself in when I was at Wake, like we'd be at camp and people would be like, man, how you doing? And I'd always tell them, dude, I'm living the dream. I'm living the dream. And they looked at me like, we're in fucking day 10 of camp, bro. You're not living the fucking dream. Dude, you're right. I feel like shit. Like this sucks. But if you told me when I was 10 years old, like, hey, dude, you'd be playing at Wake. You're in fall camp at Wake right now. I would have cried. I would have cried tears of joy. So I really was living the dream. And I always try to keep that perspective and kind of outwardly reflect that to my teammates. Just let them know, like, hey, bro, keep perspective of what we're doing. I know we're day 10 of camp. Everybody wants to kill each other. This blows. But if you told us all 10, 15 years ago what we'd be doing today, we'd be so juiced. So I can appreciate the way you attack every single day.
Bro, and like that's real. And like I'm not saying that like you can't be real with people. You know what I mean? Like I'm not just be like, yo, I'm great. Like if there's something going on, I'll have that real conversation. But to your point, dude, I can 100% relate to what you're saying about being at Wake, because I did the same thing when I was with the Jets. After I got cut a million times, I every day when I stepped on that practice field, bro, I'd close my eyes, I would just take a deep breath and be like, bro, you're in the league. Like, this is your dream. You know what I mean? And I would take that minute and appreciate it. And that's why now that I'm not, I got no regrets, man. I appreciated every single moment. And I took that time every day to be like, yeah, maybe we're in day 15 of camp, but guess what, bro? You're in the league, man. Like, who else? Million people that want this job. And if you told 10-year-old Chris Streveler you're playing on the Jets right now, you think you'd be hanging your head, man? Like, put a smile on and let's go make some plays. You know what I mean? Like, that's the mindset, bro. So I totally agree.
I love that, dude. I love that. That fired me the fuck up.
Damn right, Mitch. Like, Mitch and I met like a year and a half ago, and we've been going, dude, with this type of energy and rolling, dude, like this ever since. And it's like, there's that funny ass story that Mitch talks about like, Mitch, what was that day like you were bitching or whatever, and like me hitting you with like, yeah, the welcome to it, dog. Like, here we are, like, give Chris a little bit of that. Give Chris a little bit of that.
So me and Austin, obviously, Austin does a lot of work like with the quarterback community on the mental side of things, the psychology side of things. So I hit Austin up originally to talk about mechanics, and he started talking about like my mindset. And I was like, dude, what the fuck? This guy's a square, dude. Like, I don't care about that shit. And then obviously as I got older, like, fuck mechanics, dude. It's all up here. And but we were talking in the season, and like I said, I always said I was living the dream, but I wasn't perfect. There were definitely days where I wasn't the most thankful as I could be. There were definitely days where I was feeling sorry for myself. When we're 4-8, I get benched. Like, there were definitely days I didn't wake up saying, oh, hell yeah, And I got on the phone with Austin. I was just kind of like bitching about like what was going on. And he was like, yeah, bro, welcome to fucking college football. And I was like, fuck you, dude. Like, why? Like, I need you right now to like let me bitch. And then like I got pissed off, and then like got off the phone, and I was like, fuck. he's right. Like, I'm being a little bitch right now. And I
Well,
called him back and I was like, I'm sorry, you're right. Like, but it just reminded me, like, it's all about perspective. And especially
dude,
with, it's all about perspective.
Well, and expecting and anticipating adversity, right? It's like,
Yeah.
Chris, like I can't wait to share my story with you, dude, and like just listening to yours and all the different layers to it. And then Mitch and what he's living in right now and like what's ahead of him and all of this. It's like, this is the journey. Like that's what I tell those young cats is like, dude, at 15, 14, why the fuck am I talking to you about who you are and what your strengths and weaknesses are and why you do this and what your fears are and all of that shit? Is because if we establish that on the front end, like when there's no enemy within, the enemy outside can do us no harm. So I don't give a fuck what your coach says. I don't care what your parents say or what the fans say. Like I've established already who I know myself to be. This is just the shit that comes with playing the most difficult fucking position in the world. And that said, you are also simultaneously, Chris, like serving that community, the community of quarterbacks. And like, you've been going for a little bit here, but I'm sure like anything in your life, like you have a vision and aspirations for what you want to do in terms of giving back to that community. So yeah, just what's that look like? And, what have you started with ground up training, just as you think about it?
yeah. Well, dude, first of all, I love that. I love that mindset that you just said. And like, I definitely want to, we all got to get together and like talk. Yeah, I want to hear your story, man. It sounds
Dude,
like
this dude's story is fucking like, it is nuts. Every time he tells me, I'm like, that can't be, like, it's not real. It's
I
nuts,
can't
dude.
wait, bro. Like, I love a good journey, man. Like you said, it's about the journey. Like, the journey creates who you are. Like, and
Totally.
I can tell that we have a similar mindset. And to have a mindset like this, you have to have gone through some shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you don't just wake up and just like think like this. You have to like go through some hard stuff and like overcome it. You know what I mean? And grow.
Totally.
So I see that, bro, and like, so yeah, man. Like with Ground Up, it's been great, man. I have a partner out in Arizona. His name's Trey Anderson. He was a quarterback coach at Arizona State for a little bit, and we got linked up. And so kind of it's interesting, right? Because I'm gone playing ball. He's holding down the fort back in Arizona, coaching our kids and being present with them. And so what we love to do is we have these camps. We have our weekly throwing sessions and everything like that, but what's been really fun and that I've loved to do with the in-person stuff is like we do these quarterback experiences that we've been calling them out in Arizona, where we take these kids on the field. We partner up with a bunch of local vendors to come in and like basically provide like body work for them. And the vision is like create this entire package of what it takes to be a quarterback and treat yourself like a professional. And so, we take them on the field, take them through a good workout, and then we take them in, they have lunch, and then we've got like some massage therapists. We've got like this company called Optimize. They bring like cold tubs, therapy boots. We've got like some local like food and drinks and like people that are just trying to get their stuff out there to just like but like healthy stuff, to be like, hey guys, let's get away from the McDonald's a little bit. Let's maybe get into some healthier stuff. And we take the kids in the classroom. We do like a chalk talk, and I share like quite a bit of my journey with them because again, it's very relatable, and there's a mindset that comes along with that of like what it takes to be a quarterback, as you guys both know. And then we usually take them back out on the field again for like another little night session. So we do this like whole experience, if you will, of like this is what playing quarterback's about, man. It's on the field. It's taking care of your body. It's getting in the classroom. It's learning ball, and it's doing more work. So we've had a lot of fun doing that, and went out to South Dakota. Did one of those this year out there too. Where I went to school and partnered up with some people out there. So I just love getting in front of kids, man. I love sharing the mindset of playing quarterback and sharing the mechanical basics of playing a quarterback. So, man, it's been really fun. The next thing that I kind of want to start working on is we have like a small virtual program where I watch film with kids, teach them how to read defenses, talk through coverages, talk through concepts. So we're building more of that. I've got like a ton of cut-ups I've been working on this year, putting together PowerPoints of all this stuff. So really hoping to try to roll that out like by the first of the year of like a really legit virtual program of teaching kids to read defenses and all that stuff. And then I actually had the privilege of getting to work with Spencer Rattler and Jack Plummer a little bit this past year as they prepared for their pro day. I did some classroom stuff with them. And, man, it was just so fun. And, I love talking ball with guys at the highest level. And so I would love to get some kids out, I say kids, but some athletes out to Arizona to train for their pro days because, for me, like a big thing is like, in my opinion, you got to have stepped on a professional field and been in that environment to truly speak on what it takes. And guess what? For most of these guys that are going to go pro, you're not going to be the guy day one. So what does that look like for you? Just like you asked for me. Like, it takes a mindset to step into that and understand, how am I the backup? How do I compete for a spot on this roster? Like, it's unlike anything a lot of these guys have been through, because they go to college and they start and they play, and now you're not. So how do you stay true to yourself? How do you contribute to a room? How do you have a process that allows you to feel prepared to go be your best? That's what I love to work with kids with. So, it's a lot of stuff, but I'm looking forward to getting back out there, working with the kids that we train in person, building this virtual program, and then hopefully getting some guys out to do their pro day. Just a lot of really exciting stuff going on.
I mean, this guy and I have to sit down at a table together, let me tell you, because what you're talking about in terms of college to pro transition is essentially like, after being a quarterback coach in the SEC and doing the things that I did over my 6-year career up in college football, I just realized like the business aspect of the NFL has now reached down into college with NIL and all these things. So the personal development for Generation Z, who has on average the same level of anxiety as a 1950s psychiatric patient, is like, it's just not there. That support's not there. So my vision is very similar to yours, just younger. I like getting kids from 13 to 17 and hardening and establishing who they are, they themselves. I'm just the guide. Like, they themselves doing that work, so that, you look around the quarterback industry and it's like, we're both people, like Mitch is this way as well. Like, bro, I'm not going to dive into the negative aspects of the kind of the bickering and the way that the industry works. Like, I truly like to stay above that. Like, it's tough when people say things about you because they think that all we teach is fucking how to throw a sidearm. And it's like, it's a lot bigger than that. It's a lot different than that. But, the vision, just in terms of inspiring this next generation, like, I know we're getting along, but like, Chris, the one question that I had that was left that I wrote down just as you were talking about how raw you were. You're like, I was raw in high school. I was raw in college. And it's like, something that I like, looking at Patrick Mahomes is like, this is a multi-sport athlete. Like, all these kids want to specialize when they're 13, 14 now. And it's like, in terms of neuroplasticity and like our bodies being able to do a bunch of things, one of the best things you can do is play multiple sports. So what did you think about like the raw element of how maybe at the time you could have been like, damn, I haven't specialized and been a quarterback, but like it actually over time kind of played to your benefit and helped you? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Dude, I think it's actually the other way for me. Like, I did specialize, and I think it made me stiff.
Really?
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like, so I just played quarterback. And like I said, I loved lifting weights. So like that was my time with my teammates to like get in the weight room and grind, and I love that. But I kind of wish I would have played more sports in high school, because I just played basketball my freshman year, and then I was all football. And like, in my experience, being around guys that are the best in the world, it's like a lot of those dudes play different sports, and they're dynamic athletes because of it, right? And so I wish I would have done more. And I always tell kids, like, dude, I know there's a lot of pressure on you, man, and I know you want to play sevens, and I know you want to get offers by the time you're 14 years old, but go play sports. Like, go play sports. Go do different things. Like, you're going to be a more dynamic athlete because of it. And it just gets lost now because, again, there's so much pressure on these kids, man. There's so much pressure on these kids to get Division I offers, and what are people saying about me? And like, it's a lot for them. So I always encourage kids, go play other sports, man. Like, we can work when you want to work at quarterback. That's fine. I'm here for you. But like, go do other things, man. Go do things you like to do. And it's interesting too. You look at the quarterback coaching world, and you kind of touched on it, but I just want to bring it back up. Is like, just like anything, man, there seems to be like a lot of ego in this world too, of like people thinking like, oh, what I teach is the best, or like that dude's wrong, or this dude's wrong. And it's like I kind of like, I'm of a different mindset where like I don't really have an ego when it comes to this. Like, I was just having a conversation with John Wolford this past week, and he's starting like a biomechanics app, and we were kind of talking about that. And I'm just like, man, like, I'd love to come out and like learn from you a little bit, man. Like, let's chop it up, dude. Like, I don't think that what I say about quarterbacks is the Bible. Like, do I think I have the basics and I can teach kids to be better? Absolutely, no doubt. But like, who's to say that you can't teach me something that I can get better at? Or like, who's to say that, Austin can't show me something that I never thought of, or we can't chop it up? Like, I just think that this like segregation, if you will, of like quarterback coaching, where it's like, dude, this guy's wrong, like, don't go to him. Like, I just don't really believe in that, man. I think it can be such a more like cohesive community, and ultimately what it boils down to, and what I think you're talking about, man, is just helping kids be their best. And that's why I'm in this business. Like, I just want to help kids reach their potential. And that's what I always tell them. I'm like, I can't guarantee you you're going to go D1. I can't guarantee you anything, but I can guarantee you that I can help you reach your potential. And that's all I'm here for, man. I just want to help you be your best quarterback, your best person, your best self. And that's what this is about for me, man. And that's why I just love getting around these young kids. And when they buy in and they start to improve and they see their hard work pay off, there's like nothing more rewarding when a kid texts me and is like, Coach, I did this. And I'm like, dude, let's go, man. Your hard work's paying off. And like, that's what it's about. It's not about me. It's about helping these kids be better.
Well, you got a guest room right down the hallway anytime you want to come to Austin, Texas, all right? You and I are going to be sharing a lot of conversations, but you can mic drop off that shit. Mitch, you got anything else for him, dude? I think that was phenomenal.
Dude, that was the best hour and a half I've had in a long time. That was awesome. That was awesome. Dude. Thank you for your time.
Man. I know I was long-winded. I told you guys I had a lot of stories. So in my defense,
Dude,
I prefaced it. But yeah, man, like let's throw me in a group chat or something after this, man. Austin, we got to connect more, man. If you guys are ever out in AZ, I'm in Scottsdale in the off season. Hit me up. Like I'll make the effort to connect with people too, bro. So if there's an opportunity for us to do something together, like I'll come out to Texas. Like I'll make it happen. Like I'm about what I say. So I just want to connect with you guys.
Quick, Chris. That shit's coming quick, guys. Hey, anyway, I appreciate you guys listening to this. If you made it through an hour and 33 minutes, you're a fucking real one, all right? And if you got any questions or anything, just drop them in the comments. Go connect with this dude. Obviously, you guys just heard the passion and you heard the energy and where he comes from for the last hour and a half. And, all three of us that are in this group just trying to help the next generation, as they inevitably endure the things that we've been through. So, guys, I appreciate both of you. That's for damn sure, like always. And officially signing out, dude. All right? We'll see you later.
Appreciate you guys.